Welcome back to another episode of The Creatress of Freedom. I don't know why I sing that every time. I'm Annie, I'm your host. It's so awesome to have you here, and I'm so excited to be dropping on in and having this beautiful conversation with you again today. Today is probably one of the most important conversations that we could have, especially if you want to step off the floor. Now, that could be anywhere between stepping off the floor to start a family. It could be stepping off the floor to take more time off to travel. It could be stepping off the floor to maybe care for sick loved ones. Or maybe it's just you just want to stop working so hard. So if you fall into any of those categories, you're in the right place. Let's delve on in. If you are new, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. If you're an OG, I love you. Thank you for coming back. Let's delve in. So I want to talk about this topic about stepping off the salon floor. Now, a lot of salon owners come to me and they want the same thing, right? They say to me, I really, really want to step off the salon floor, but every time I do, something always goes wrong. Now, I'm sure that you can relate. I know that I can 100% relate. Every time I would just even take half a day off, my phone would blow up with phone calls from my team. Oh, we just had this happen, or like, what do you want this, or how do you want this done, or this has gone wrong, or such and such rang and they want to book this appointment. Can I book this appointment in? And it's like, oh my gosh, and you just want to scream and you just like want to pull your hair out and you're like, I can't even get 5 seconds to myself. What the fuck? So let's talk about how you can actually step off the floor with ease, okay? So I know that, when I had staff, in my mind, I had this beautiful picture of, I would have staff and I would be sunbaking, on an overseas holiday. And, I would not get one phone call asking me, how do you want this done? And I was like, I just dream of that day. That day would just be so good. And that day came in 2018. And it was the year that I was able to take 2 overseas holidays. One was with my partner, one was with the kids. So we had a kid-free trip overseas. We went to Vietnam, and then we also did a South Pacific cruise with the kids. And then I did several interstate trips. So some with my business mentor and then some with girlfriends. And I went to Noosa as when I was still living in Victoria. So went to Noosa and had girls' weekends, and it was amazing. And the best part was that my team thrived. My team actually thrived. And I didn't get phone calls. I didn't get any issues that like were going wrong or any of that stuff. So it was amazing. And so I want to share with you how that happened so that you can also allow that to happen for yourself, because really that's the whole idea as to why you went into business, right? You went into business because you wanted to create freedom. So let's delve into that deeper, okay? So before we do that, I also want to share with you that there was one complication that actually happened with my team while I was away. And it happened to be when I was on the cruise and I didn't have any service. So these babes had to figure it out for themselves. And luckily, I had an entire Bible, an entire manual that they were able to go to that I had really, really implemented with my team, and they knew exactly how to handle it. And so this is what I want to talk to you about, is the reason that you are taking time off and everything's falling apart is because you have not yet realized the importance of having your policies and your systems and your procedures in place, okay? This is crucial, because if you do not have this written down and you do not implement this with your team, then they're naturally going to call you. And so I always say to my clients that anytime you're feeling frustrated or annoyed at something, this is a very clear indication. I always say data, there's always data, right? We're always being given so much data. And so we use all of these situations as data, air quotation marks, to improve our business. So if you are feeling frustrated by something that's gone on in your team, maybe you've got a staff member that is always late, right? No matter how many times you have the conversation with that staff member, they are always late to the salon. So if that's the case, What is your policy around it? What is your procedure? And so then you have a procedure written up that, if you're late so many times, then, we've had conversations about it, then by the third time a written warning is issued, right? And then once you've got that policy, you then implement that policy with your entire team. So you pull a team meeting and you say, okay, this is a new policy that we're implementing. Anybody that's late, you get 3 warnings, verbal warnings. If it continues to happen, then a written warning happens. Does everybody understand this new policy? And you get everyone to say yes, 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 amazing, great. So then what you also do is you also have a section for that policy where they get to sign it. So every single person signs it. And what this does is it protects you as a boss, and it allows you to be able to use this at a later date. So let's say you've implemented this new policy, you've got this one staff member next week that rocks up late. Okay. We don't wait 3 times to address the situation. This is something that I also see a lot of salon owners do as well. They tell me these problems that go wrong in their business and they do nothing about them. They let them keep going, sometimes for months. I'm like, okay, so this has been going on for how long? And they're like 6 months. I'm like, okay, cool. When have you had a conversation about it? Oh, I haven't. Okay, right. Well, this is a problem here, right? Because you're not following up, you're not setting the boundary, you're not making there be consequences for these actions, right? So we have to always make sure that we implement. So let's say you've got this staff member that is late next week, the week after you've just fucking implemented it, right? Because that's what happens. So then you would say to that staff member, hey, I noticed that you were late, today, whenever the conversation is that you're having, right? And they're like, yeah, sorry, like I got held up, like, oh yeah, like, I got stuck behind a truck and yeah, it was crazy. But they also walk in with a fucking coffee in their hand too. And you're like, yeah, was it the truck or was it the fact that you stopped and got a coffee and you didn't allow yourself enough time for that? Anyway, another conversation. And so then you can say to this staff member, okay, remember last week we went over what the policy was? And they're going to say, yeah, yeah, yeah. And you can say, okay, you also signed it to let me know that you fully understood it. So I want to confirm, do you fully understand it? And if they're like, yeah, 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 I do. Like, sorry, like won't happen again. Okay, great. So this shows that you're serious about the implementation. It's one thing to say this is the policy. It's another thing to follow up with the implementation when the boundary gets crossed, okay? So we want to make sure that we follow that up with what we've said, okay? So then if the following week this staff member does the same thing, right, and is late one day, you bring it up again and you say, hey, like this has happened 2 weeks in a row. Remember, this is our new policy. Remember that from next week, like if this happens one more time, you're going to get a written warning. And they're like, oh yeah, yeah, I'm really sorry, right? So then the following week they do the same thing and they rock up late. And now you have to issue your written warning. Because if you don't, they call your bluff and they know that you're not serious. And this is something that happens all the time inside my containers. As soon as they go to that next stage of actually implementing what they say that they're going to do, there's a switch that happens in the staff member because they're like, oh shit, she's actually serious. I didn't think that she was going to give me a written warning. Like, holy fuck. Okay. And then what's the follow-on process? Okay, well, if you've been given 3 written warnings, well, then it's an instant dismissal because you're clearly not listening. You're clearly not focusing on what I'm trying to tell you. You've signed it to tell me that you understand it. So this protects you if you were to have to go down that path, right? And let's say, hopefully this never happens, but let's say that staff then goes to Fair Work and is like, this was not fair, like this was unfair dismissal. You can say, well, I implemented this policy at this date, they signed it at this date. These were the 3 verbal warnings that I gave them on these dates. And so it was written there, right? And you have this as protection. It's so, so important for that to happen. So this brings me to the scenario that happened with my salon, right? So what happened was one of the clients was not happy with her hair. There was a couple of things. So one of the clients was not happy with her hair, and as a result, she left, and then it was like 10 days later, she came back to the salon and said that she wasn't happy with the hair and she wanted a refund. And so the girls were like, okay, they never had to issue a refund, but they knew what the policy was because it was in the manual out the back. And so they said, look, just leave it with us for a second. We just need to go and double check what the policy is. And so my policy at the time was that if you were to come in and ask for a full refund or you weren't happy with your service, then you would need to come in within 7 days of having your hair done, no one else to have touched your hair, and you have to allow us the opportunity to fix it before we issue any money back. Now, this particular client had actually been to another salon. So we were now fixing somebody else's work, right? Plus, it was out of the 7 days, and the client wasn't willing to have us fix it. She wanted her money back. So, because the policy was written up here, the girls could show this particular client, this is our salon policy. And unfortunately, you don't meet any of the criteria. So Annie's away at the moment. What we can do is when she gets back or she gets into service, we'll get her to give you a call if you want to discuss it further. And the client was like, no, it's fine. Like, I can see what your policy is. Like, it is what it is, I guess. And like, that was it. Now, this could have been a disaster because had this not been written up, I guarantee that out of fear and out of the confrontation that was happening, I guarantee that my staff would have given her the money back. And that was not actually what needed to happen. But because I had it all written for them, they felt confident to implement it. And so they eventually, when I got back into service, they told me what happened. And I ended up calling the client anyway, just out of courtesy, and just like said to her, like, how are you? Like, I really appreciate the fact that you came back to us. I understand that the girls have explained to you our policy. I would love to welcome you back into the salon, and we can do a blow wave and give you a complimentary treatment if that's something that you're interested in. And the client was like, no, like, I really appreciate the phone call, but like, it's fine. And so from there, like, then it was a matter of me deciding, was it our staff that didn't do it? And it's so hard to know because she had actually been somewhere else. So was the work that was done our work, or was it the other person's work? Apparently, when she left, she was very happy with it. She didn't show any signs of it not being unhappy with it. And so this is why these things are really, really important to have in place. And these are the only reason why you will never be able to step off the floor, because every time you step off the floor, when something does go wrong, you actually don't implement and put some kind of policy in place. So it's really important that you put some kind of policy in place and you get your team to follow through with it, and you make sure that it's implemented. And if there's consequences that need to be put in place after the issue keeps arising, then you need to make sure that you follow through on that. I know that this is much easier said than done, because you don't want to seem like you're being a bitch. You don't want to seem like you're being nasty. I get it. I understand it. But it's actually really important, because this is the vision and the mission that you've got for your business. And at the end of the day, this reflection falls back on you as the business owner, not on the team. It falls back on you. And so this is why it's really important to make sure that you know exactly what this bigger mission is and what you stand for and what you'll tolerate and what you won't tolerate. So if you want to learn how to step off the floor, these are the things that you're going to have to put in place. And that means that you're going to have to stop working on the floor with clients, because writing up your policies and procedures is going to take some time, right? It's going to take some time to do that. If that's something that you need some support with, then this is available inside Evolve. So I have, a whole system in there that can support you with templates, but you still have to do the work and you still have to do the implementation. So if that's something that you are like, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start with my policies and procedures, and like, oh my God, I'm still working with so many clients, I don't even know where to find the time for that. Like, oh my gosh, overwhelm, procrastination, then take that as your sign to come on and join us inside Evolve, because that is going to be the game changer for you, so that you can start putting in those foundations, so that you can start scaling to the next level, because you don't need to be in the salon. You don't need to be on the salon floor in order for your salon to thrive. And I have a beautiful client that is purely, I have quite a few actually that are pure evidence of that, where we have worked them to the stage where they are no longer off the floor, on the floor, and their teams run amazingly for them. Their teams run so well, and they don't have to be on the salon floor because they now have all of these things in place. And by you not being on the floor doesn't mean that you're not involved in your business. I still teach you how to be very much involved in your business. You have to be involved in your business. You can't give too much of your power away. If you do that, then everything starts to shift. So we still need you to still maintain some power within the business, but having your policies and your procedures is going to be a really big stepping stone to really helping you step off the salon floor and really starting to live the life of freedom that you dreamed of when you first opened the salon. So if this was supportive, let me know. I would love to hear from you. You can either come and shoot me a DM on Instagram or on Facebook. Otherwise, you'll see different ways to connect in the show notes. You'll also see the application for the Evolve container. I don't know how much longer the doors are going to be open, so depending on when it is that you're listening to this, still fill out the application, because if we've closed the doors, as soon as we open the roundup, you will have first access to come and jump in. So if you're feeling that call and you've heard the call and you're ready to take action, you will find the application in the show notes. Have a beautiful day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.